Yum, yum, yum. Sorry, I'm hungry. We're gonna do this. We're almost there. Right? Anyways. Where did we stop last night? I don't remember what happened last night. Lost in history, hopefully. People who have cut themselves off from passion have switched their allegiance. It's not, we already read this. Okay, I remember where we stopped. The reason that falling in love is so passionate is simple. Desire is no longer a choice. Romance bursts the dam of inhibition. I like that. Dams are bad anyways, you know? Its erotic power proves too much for fear and repression to hold back. Who can resist erotic energy? I don't think anyone can, actually. Because if you resist it mentally, your body is not going to resist it. For sure. At the deepest level, people never fall in love accidentally. I said that. They simply grow tired of living without passion. And having made this unconscious decision, they open up once more, allow themselves to receive love. Without waiting to fall in love, you can rekindle passion by imitating this process. When the passion is gone from a relationship, both partners must be honest in stating that they have desires. This, of course, can be difficult for if either partner is operating under the belief, I'm bored with you, it will be doubly difficult to say, I desire you. The critical step is to eliminate your partner entirely as the cause of the problem and take responsibility for your own feelings. A lot of people don't take responsibility for their feelings. That is something I'm constantly learning. Sometimes people trigger me, and I don't like being triggered because that gives them control. So I'm learning. I think I've mastered it at this level a little bit. Sometimes a little fear arises, but other than that, I think I'm good. The central issue is not I'm bored with you, but I am bored. By taking blame out of the equation, you also remove threat. This is extremely important because you cannot help but fear anyone whom you are mentally attacking. Your whole efforts need to be directed towards finding out what you really want and then feeling you deserve to fulfill those desires. Yeah. That's the whole life journey. Finding out what you really want and saying you deserve what you want, to fulfill that desire. I told Amy the gap between yourself and your desires is like a buffer that deadens feelings. Feeling your way out of boredom is the only solution. If you are honest in your search for your own feelings, you will hit upon love, even if it's only the tiniest spark of attraction and desire. Some hint of desire must be present no matter how numbed a person may be. Instead of deciding that the faint impulses are too insignificant to act upon, take the opposite tack. Put your newfound feelings at the feet of your beloved. Express kindness in the smallest of ways. Praise even the humblest quality. Smile outwardly when an inner smile flickers. In this way, you encourage a fragile new emotion to believe that it is legitimate and that it has a right to exist. That is something I do a lot of. I express my kindness, praise even the humblest quality, smile, because people aren't used to getting compliments. You know, it's not something that's practiced. It's usually people who are like insanely beautiful. They get the compliments like, "Oh my God, you're beautiful," and then everyone else who doesn't fit the mold, like people who think they're ugly but they're really not. Complimenting them is very unusual, and they don't know what to do. I do it all the time, and it's not to make fun of anyone. I'm sincerely telling people, that they're beautiful, and you would see like the surprise in their face, like no one has said that, like, and also the hurt of not being told that they're beautiful, and they themselves considering that they're ugly and they're trash, even though that's not the truth. No one in this world is ugly. I don't see it that way. Sorry, how is this on? Oh, I have like double tabs. What the hell? All right, whatever. So no one on this planet is ugly. It's all about perception. What people perceive as ugly is actually a reflection of what they see in themselves. And that's the craziest thing in this world. Let me see what is going on. So, in this way, you encourage a fragile new emotion to believe that it's legitimate, that it has a right to exist. And, it is fragile when you think that you're ugly for most of your life, for most of your existence. And when somebody says you're beautiful, it's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like giving someone a sticker, right? Like a band-aid. Like, that's how I see it. Weird analogy. In this way, you encourage a fragile man. For the first time in our talk, Amy looked encouraged. Fred doesn't really know that I still love him, she said, sounding very vulnerable. And asking him to read your mind isn't going to work, I said. The web of tenderness that once connected you has been torn, but it can rewoven, I promise. That's great. Analogies. I like spiders. And no matter how many times you walk in their web, they always rebuild. Great. From the starting point, I love you, the channels of passion gradually open up. The relationship that seems to frustrate and kill desire turns into the healer of desire. Healer of desire. I have a special name for the kind of healing I'm asking you to try, I said. It's called wooing the goddess. That's hilarious. It's a title. What you ultimately want isn't Fred or a better sex life. You want the return of spirit within you, which is the return of God. The passionate side of God is Shakti, the goddess. Passion was the wedding gift she brought when she married Shiva. It is also the gift women bring to men today, for the female principle is desirable by nature. That's really sweet and romantic. Women are gifts, okay? If you don't see that, you blind, right? So blind. It excites consciousness and with arousal and yearning. It melts opposite into union and makes chaos into a dance. It was your birthright to be that passion. Isn't that great? You make it sound like I could be, Amy said, actually laughing for the first time. If you don't feel at one with the goddess, I said, woo her back. Win her before you try to win anyone else. Go into the fear and hurt. Practice letting go of your old beliefs. Learn to forgive yourself. Find moments when you can be kind to your inner being. Claim what is good about yourself and not just what is bad. Follow every enthusiasm wherever it leads you, since the source of enthusiasm is always passion. Oh, I thought I had my glasses on. Spirit is waiting for you to rejoin her. She stands outside the boundaries you have imposed on yourself. There is no passion too great for her to contain. You will never be lost reaching for the infinite. She's the tenderness of infinites, whose only desire is to protect you and carry you in her arms from fear to love. Beautiful. Are we on the last chapter? Yes. We are on the last chapter now, and it's called Ecstasy. Nice. All right, let's get into this. This one's going to be saucy. What we have discussed so far is how to ground a relationship in love through surrender, non-attachment, and the renewal of passion. When two people have found such a basis of lasting love, they are ready for the next stage on the path, which we can call ascension. Ascension is based on love's ability to expand beyond the world of limitations. Wait, I'm reading like double lines. Love's ability to expand beyond the world of limitations to the world of the boundless. Ascension. Isn't that crazy? People are ascending at this accelerated rate now. You know, it's just so amazing what you can do once you realize the truth of life. Yeah, that's it. All right. Before ascension, I refers to a single individual isolated in time and space. After ascension, I refers to a self that observes time and space without feeling trapped by them. You have slipped through a silver of time to find the timeless. Before ascension, you meant someone who could be loved. Oh, he's saying you meant someone who could be loved but never merged with. After ascension, you means a part of oneself who is as close as breath. Before ascension, we meant a couple who met in mutual need. After ascension, we has no meaning since union is complete. Interesting. So there's no need to use the term we when you're ascended in a relationship. That's interesting. I never thought of that. So mind blown. Ascending is a process like falling in love or being in relationship. You're not carried away into another world. This world becomes transformed into a heaven of fulfillment. Ever at peace, ever in love. The process of ascension doesn't call upon anything new from inside you other than letting go and letting go until there's nothing more to let go of. Ascension is the final stage in relinquishing attachment to separation. Someone who is ascended has achieved Christ's injunction to be in the world, but not of it. As you ascend, your love will turn into ecstasy. Knowing all this, right, and reading it to people, eventually this channel is going to get lost in history and someone's going to stumble upon it. The fact that in the Bible, people have ignored that this is the whole reason why Christ came to Earth is not. I'm not gonna laugh. It's just, what are the words? I guess I don't know why I want to say that word. Let me look it up. Yeah, negligent. Okay, it is negligent because they put their power in Jesus coming to save and forgiving everyone and eliminating their sins, you know. But the power is in the person to change, you know. That's really crazy and it's really cool. And I'm not worried about anyone not understanding this anymore because, it's just the proof is in the pudding at this time. And yes, I have a mark here. I'm a little self-conscious. To feel ecstasy is the privilege of all who have walked the path to this point. And also what is it? The phrase, or, the little story of Jesus carrying you on the sand, which I think is really cute. A disciple asks, where have you been? I've been in so much pain. I've been alone. I only see one step of footprints. And then Jesus says, I carried you along the way. And that's really crazy. That's really heavy too, to carry someone all the way. He's strong. If you have not yet come this far, ecstasy is not within your normal range of feelings. You have not known joy, delight, exuberance, satisfaction, and happiness, but these are shadows of the ecstatic state. It exists as an ideal that is more or less unreachable through any emotion the ego can grasp. The fact that ecstasy takes us beyond ego is implied in the roots of the word itself. In Greek, ekstasis means to stand or place outside. I don't know. Ekstasis. One can read this in its two ways. Either ecstasy requires you to move outside yourself, or it is standing all around waiting to be noticed. Ain't that true? Um, I couldn't see anything at all when I was consumed by my ego. You know, even if it was like the brightest thing, the most beautiful thing, like I couldn't see it. Also, that goes for looking at myself as a beautiful person. I didn't see anything. It was crazy. Look at my face. I feel like I look younger today. I don't know. I look like I'm 25 again. Nice. One can read this in two ways. Either ecstasy requires you to move outside yourself, or is standing all around, waiting to be noticed. There is more than a subtle difference here. Do you have to go someplace to find ecstasy? Take an extraordinary journey into unknown realms. This is what mystics and poets seem to do, fetching back their ecstatic experiences like precious cargo from exotic land. Or is ecstasy so close that we miss it because no one has shown us how to touch it? I think people have shown people how to do it, how to touch it, but they're just so afraid of letting go. You know, that's like throwing yourself into space with no landline. You know, you're just floating in the abyss. Which is literally what we're doing in space, floating. Ecstasy is the final stage of intimacy with yourself. Cool. I'm in ecstasy right now. I feel really high. Ugh, God. Before ascension, intimacy is achieved by reaching out to someone else. Reaching out implies a gap, and what we have learned so far is that this gap, which appears to be between me and you, is actually inside of each other. Therefore, what lovers really heal when they love intimately is the relationship with themselves. Throughout time, you have been seeking to love yourself, heal yourself, forgive yourself, and find God in yourself. All outer relationships, which come and go in time, serve the eternal relationship. Eventually, your seeking is done. A moment comes when you experience emerging, as Emily Dickinson so exquisitely described, the drop that wrestles in the sea, forgets her own locality as I towards thee. This is a crystalline instant. Why is he using that word? Crystalline. In which pure love fuses into pure religious devotion, for ecstasy overpowers all separation. Ego gives way to pure flow of being. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did, or what I've done, or what I am. Don't regret it. Mm-hmm. To be in ecstasy permanently is known in Sanskrit as moksha. Are you serious? Hold on. These people got me tripping. All right. Well, I'm not. I knew, but. All right. So moksha means liberation. And like I mentioned before, I didn't know what this was, um, but it's Moksha Foundation. Yes. Okay. That obviously needs to come after this. Let's see what it says. It could just as correctly be called ascension, for arrival at the end of love's journey identifies you with the pure observer, witness, and seer that has been with you every step of the way, like Jesus holds you and carries you, um, you know, just above and beyond the world of ego and its needs. Isn't that nice? It's beautiful. Moksha ends karmic bondage, and it abolishes individual memory, desire, and identity in the cosmic ocean. I didn't know that. That we can end karmic bond. Well, I did a little bit. Um, it's very interesting. Yet, in some mysterious way, liberation is not an extinction or annihilation, but a new birth, a birth into fullness. When moksha comes, the individual has three distinct realizations. I am that, thou art that, all that is that. That is a brain teaser. Um, I am that, thou art that, all that is that. Let me break this down. I am that, thou art that, all this is that. I don't get it. I just know the art part because it says art. Anyways, three simple statements, first enunciated thousands of years ago in the Upanishads of India, are the most intimate revelations that spirit can impart on to humans. That's why I like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad. You know what I mean? That's romance, man. It's poetry. Derives from a Sanskrit phrase meaning to sit close by, referring to how near one must draw to God in order to understand these teachings. I am that. Oh, thanks. He's explaining it to me. Thank you. I am that is the first revelation. It abolishes all separation between the soul and God. I mean, would you call God that? What is the term that? Is it negative? Okay, so it is that. That makes sense. So that is that. You know what I mean? Because some people say it, and that's rude. In my opinion, my experience. Rude. All right. This is the moment when the drop dissolves into the ocean, when a person looks at all the good and the bad things in his existence, the struggle between light and dark, the contrast of virtue and sin, and sees them all as equal. Hardest thing to do, but can be done. Everything that mattered to this mind is reduced to a play of the being within itself. I am that means I am being and nothing else. Isn't that great? We're all jelly beans. Jelly beans. Thou art that is the second revelation. It denotes that the sacred nature of the beloved for thou is both God and lover. Ouch. In this revelation, a bridge is built between two souls. There's no possibility of separation because the perception of I melts into the perception of thou. To truly breathe as one, the celestial vision of the Creator becomes personal. One can gaze like a loving parent on every person. That's remote viewing, pretty much. You can watch everyone if you wanted to. But, that's, I don't think it's creepy. I just don't want to extend my energy, I'll just look at one person every day. All this is the third revelation. It is an expansion of the first two revelations to encompass every particle in the universe. The expansion delivers total unity as the individual ego finds that it is actually cosmic ego. I is no longer an isolated speck, a viewpoint bounded by time and space. Instead of feeling that I inhabit a body, I sense myself as infinite conscious, expanding with infinite speed through infinite dimensions. So ascension is accelerated as soon as you realize that what he just said. Crazy, right? Who knew? Who would have known a little American girl with little education would ascend at an accelerated speed beyond comprehension? I didn't know. I was just doing my thing, for sure. Right. These three strokes of moksha require extreme purity and refinement of awareness to be sustained. Isn't that nice? You know how people think that being a virgin means purity? That's just a social construct. It's kind of gross. But real purity is the soul. That's all I'm going to say. These three strokes of moksha require extreme purity and refinement of awareness to be sustained. So constantly refining your awareness on a daily basis. It reminds me of something my friend said. Not to make fun of anyone, but someone I ripped a new one said that he meditated once and then he was ascended, like he knew all the answers. And I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's not It's not that easy. It's a lifestyle, a life change, and a commitment to the creator. You can't just, unless you're like freaking Buddha, you just close your eyes and you're like, oh crap, that's possible. But no. Anyways, the greatest masters and saints throughout history have been capable of this liberation. It is the quest of each of us undertakes when we step onto the path of love. Without ecstasy, the experience of liberation might seem impossibly distant, given its incredible magnitude. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, who has been posing as a chariot driver to the warrior Arjuna, agrees to show himself as he really is. He opens his mouth, in which appear all worlds and creatures, infinite universes expanding so rapidly that mortal Arjuna reels on the verge of extinction. That's crazy. I'm sure he literally like exploded from trying to comprehend what was going on. I would if I wasn't ready. I would just be like, oh shit. It's it. I'm done. You know what I mean? Yet all the moksha represents in a shift in awareness, a final perception of who we are. Therefore, the insight of ecstasy have much more to do with the final expansion of consciousness than with any feeling of emotion, however remarkable. Ecstasy carries you completely outside your ego boundaries. In ecstasy, you know yourself as cosmic ego, unbounded in time and space. The end of love's journey returns to the source of all awareness, power, and being. Moksha is not an ending, but a beginning. We begin to live in fullness only after liberation. A liberated soul is a citizen of the universe. I'm a universal citizen, warrior, person, patriot. Hello. Um, you know, it's better that way. In any sense, let's relate it to a game, right? Because I like games. In what's that game where you can have sex with aliens? Well, whatever, with Shepard, it's like I don't remember playing this game that much because I wasn't in it for the storyline. I was in it to have sex with aliens, okay? Can't help it. Anyways, basically, they were still trying to like be human. Like, they were struggling to survive and accept that they were pretty much part of the universe. And by not doing the work of spirituality and love, it was like a very tragic ending for everyone involved because everyone ends up dying. Very terrible deaths, but if they humans realized that, oh, we're pretty much cosmic dust, so we don't have to cling onto the end of humanity, because everything is meant to change. So humans evolve. We're still traces of human, I guess, right? it doesn't really matter if genetically we change, we're all the same. But, the concept of being eliminated as a race is so scary, but yet it's not, because people still want to use atomic power. It's like nonsensical, right? Because you're never going to disappear if you're eternal. So it's really just your body, decaying or dying. So what am I trying to say? I don't know. Whatever. There's really no adequate equivalent for moksha in Western culture. I wonder why. Redemption may be the closest synonym. Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, right? Great game. Basically, redemption could also be atonement, right? That's religious atonement, right? Why am I getting a movie? I'll watch the movie, but I want to know what the definition is. Yeah, so it would be atonement for people. Redemption, atonement. For anything that you have done. Basically, it's not as easy as going to church on Sunday and confessing. It's an act, right? An act of devotion. Anyways, moksha unites self and soul in the mystic marriage that is Christian terms as union with the Redeemer. Angels are said to be in this state, which gives rise to their ecstatic praise of God. The difficulty with redemption, however, is that it's generally a future state, realized after death. Therefore, it is much more mystical than moksha, which can be achieved here and now. You can achieve moksha before even dying. Yeah, a lot of people, let's just take people who aren't ascending, typically boomers. They're so afraid of death. It's evident that that's the only way that they're ever going to heal. Experience the impossible miracle that even if your body dies, you're still there. And that is what got me interested in spiritualism. Not in the beginning, because I was kind of like half-assing it, but the possibility of just you like being the same consciousness, with or without a body. And the other thing that I remember from spiritualism is basically when people die and they have a lot of trauma that they didn't resolve, they're basically put in a pod of healing, and they get spirit therapists, which I think is hilarious. Imagine that, your ghost, and there's another ghost being your therapist. It's hilarious. But it's nice, right? Drew's story. Having said that the liberation is like a new birth, I like to relate the story of someone who went through that birth, my mystical friend, Drew. Mystical is a term that has been attached to Drew since the day we met. It was a meditation course years ago, and Drew attracted considerable attention. He wore white Indian dhoti, sandals, and some chains of beads that I have never seen on a yogi in the Himalayas. I don't know what a dhoti is. I'm actually really curious. What is a dhoti? Oh, okay. They're pants. Interesting. I know someone who wears those all the time. When everyone gathered in chairs before the outdoor stage for presentations, he sat in the lotus position under a grove of trees on a nearby hill. I've never met anyone who had a foot more firmly planted in the other world. And his talk was an outpouring of mind-boggling experience of astral planes and angelic visitation. When I last heard of Drew, he was in Nepal, having taken vows in the monastic order deep in the mountains. In some ways, I feel jealous of the life he had chosen. It's interesting. I like that. I want to go on a pilgrimage around the world, and meet other spiritual leaders and educators, just to see what happens. The one day he called me and asked if we could meet. He appeared at my door, sans beads, sandals, and dhoti, dressed in a sports shirt and a chinos. We walked, and I quickly found out, unlike 10 years ago, Drew now never visits psychics or readers of any kind, and in fact feels total indifference towards paranormal phenomenon. I haven't sold out on all that, Drew said. Something deeper took its place. He proceeded to tell me about a breakthrough experience he had, one so powerful that it had changed his life. You don't know me very well, but I've always been ambitious, fiercely so. Some people would say I fought to get into the best prep school, the best college, the best fraternity. I don't remember how I hooked up with the idea of mysticism and enlightenment, maybe an old girlfriend or a trip on LSD. But once bitten, I wasn't going to give up until I turned into something magical, sorcerer, warrior, seer, psychic, and prophet if I got that far. It was all rampant ego as I look back on it now, but at the time my experiences were pretty fantastic, I agree. I had the lights, the bliss, the angelic voices, and while it was all happening, it never occurred to me that I was experiencing was actually one and one only thing, my expectations. Ironic. Mysticism was high drama with me at the center lapping it up. We're talking about 10 years of extraordinary visions. Then one day I was in Vermont walking up a perfectly green hill when it all collapsed. It was like being sucked down a drain. My head started spinning and I had to sit down. I couldn't tell if I was plummeting down a hole or if the earth was sinking out from under me. It was a terrifying sensation. Interesting. I had a sudden horror of turning around, for I expected to see the sky opening into a funnel that would suck out the world. I closed my eyes and I lay down praying that whatever this was would just end. It took about an hour. I might have passed out during that time. I didn't have a watch on, because even when I feel like I was coming back to reality, my head buzzed. I got up, still extremely wobbly, and walked down the hill to my cabin. The dizziness didn't fully go away for several days, and I continued to feel disoriented. What do you think? What do you make of that? I had been listening to Drew without comment. Well, I said, if a patient came to me with that kind of experience, I guess I'd suspend judgment until we took a brain scan and ran a psychiatric profile. People were always bingo. Either I was dying of a brain tumor or I had suffered a psychotic break. Had that. That's exactly what I told myself. I ran to the village library and madly scanned some old medical books. The thing that was I didn't have double vision or any return of severe dizziness. I didn't have disordered or racing thoughts. The clinical explanation for this episode didn't seem to apply. Gradually, my symptoms vanished, but not without a trace. I was different. It was as if someone had pulled the plug and drained out my what? Battery fluid. I didn't have any charge left, no ambition, curiosity, purpose, drive. I was pointless to myself, and my mystical experiences had disappeared completely. If I shut my eyes to meditate, there wasn't any light. I didn't expand outside my body or see angels. For a few days after, I felt extreme anxiety, as though demons were going to get me. But that didn't happen either. So if it was tumors, madness, or divine punishment, what was it? I waited for an answer. Did you get one? I asked. Yes, but not the way I expected. The answer was a process which I began to call the ego surgery. That dramatic moment on the mountain was like having my chest open up by an invisible surgeon. And once opened, I couldn't close myself up again. It hadn't occurred to me in my headlong pursuit of never ending high, for that's what spiritual life had meant to me. The spirit is carved out of very things a person doesn't want to face. Like most people, I wanted not to be sad, anxious, powerless, unlovable, and hostile. I wanted it, the big spiritual payoff. But what I now got was every speck of sadness, anger, anxiety, and so on that I thought I had gone beyond. It must have been a difficult time, I said. To put it mildly, whoever the surgeon was, he dug deep, pro- uh, probing for every hidden secret, every dark deposit of guilt and shame. There was mornings when I felt that nothing could be worse than simply living with myself, but I got used to what was happening once I realized that the surgeon was me working on myself. At some deep level, I had given myself permission to go through the dark night of the soul. He's lucky that he got surgery and discovered that the pursuit of spiritualism is ego. Uh, I understand it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. Um, but everyone's spiritual awakening is catered to their personality. So I expect the orgasms that I will have in physical partnership are going to show me what I'm missing. Because I do miss a lot sometimes. I do. Ironically, I'd always thought that getting to God meant climbing a mountain, getting so close to Him that He would say, "Ah, you've made it, I see," with a smile of approval. He would then grab my hand and pull me into heaven. There's only one problem with this scenario. What happens to the parts that get left behind? I certainly didn't expect God to say, "Bring along your shame and guilt to me." Being spiritual meant jettisoning the bad me and boosting the good me to heaven. But that would imply, I said, that God judges against the bad, you, and only loves the good as good you. Such as God couldn't be a God of love. He would be a God of ego, since that's exactly what our egos do all the time, judge against the bad and accept only the good. Exactly, said Drew. I suppose that's why ego surgery was so difficult to face. Once these awful things, the ghosts in the basement, I call them, were exposed, I actually had to take them back. You can't imagine how disgusting that seemed at first. I mean, all our dirty secrets look hideous in our own eyes, no matter how common they may appear to others. Yeah, skeletons in the closet. Exactly, said Drew. I suppose that's what. I don't think it's the horribleness of unconsciousness that is the main block. I suggest it's more of fears about forgiveness. What you're talking about is forgiving yourself so that you can take back your dark energies and return them into love. What if that fails? What if you're stuck being as ugly, dirty, sinful, and undeserving as your worst judgments say you are? The prospect is so terrifying that even tiny sins and blemishes get expanded into monstrosities. Drew nodded and sat still for a moment. There were times when I didn't think I was going to make it. A voice inside kept crying, "You're going to die. You can't take anymore." But I knew I wasn't going to die. My spiritual life had taught me at least that much. I went back to my old job as a stockbroker, and so far as I knew, nobody had any idea what I was going through. He noticed my amusement at the kind of job he had chosen. "You like literature, I recall. Didn't Hawthorne write somewhere that a man may go around to all the world looking like any other man while entertaining the most extraordinary ideas in his head?" Yeah. And that's the best thing about being energy and an ascended being. No one can see what you're thinking unless, which is no danger at all. People think mind control and mind reading, is like the worst violation, but it's not. Um, it's just kind of like, I would say what goes on in my mind is kind of like perverted. So it's gonna, as soon as you dip into there, you're gonna mess up. In his journals, I think, but that could apply to psychotics as well as visionaries. True, but my point is that something that appears normal can be very wild inside, which had not dawned on me when I was running around trying to become a visionary. I walked down Milk Street with my briefcase and I asked, "Is a tree, a skyscraper a skyscraper?" What makes these things normal is what they look like, separate solid objects, but they're not. They're bundles of energy carved out of infinite energy soup of the universe, and so are you and I. Therefore, at some level, you and I are not simply connected with that tree and that skyscraper. We are the tree and skyscraper, and that is what a mystic knows, nothing else. "You have closed the gap," I said, feeling both moved and impressed. Something like that. Have you ever sat by a river all alone and tried to feel it? Of course you can't. You may say that you're feeling the river, its flow, its still depths, its constant change that runs unopposed from here to there, but all you can actually feel is yourself. If you can get close enough to it, and such feelings are very tough to get close to. The sweetness of sitting by a river actually comes from a tiny point in your heart. That point of sweetness is perfectly still. It doesn't reach out for you, but it doesn't even abandon you. It doesn't ever abandon you either. What's in the sweet point? Everything. Yes, everything. We both sat without speaking, relishing this moment of communion. Then Drew said, "The ego surgery ended at a certain point. This process spit me out. I can't say I did anything really, but in some way I had been through the crucible and now past the flames. What was I? I was real. It's astonishing to realize what a difference it makes to find out that you are not false. Since to the rational mind, of course, I am real. It's a given. But to be really real, that's the joy, that's the revelation, that's the ecstasy." Impossible is it to convey ecstasy through the poor power of words. We can sense what it is because all of us live from that sweet point in our hearts. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah. It's just interesting because everyone is born the same and everyone is a sweetheart. Like, all children are sweet. And that's why I love children. But we're all children pretty much. So it's just about reverse aging back into a kid. Plus the benefits of having an adult body, grown woman. Whatever seems to be happening on the outside, every person wants to hold on to the spot forever. It is touched in love, sometimes in sex, often in moments of supreme creativity. When we succeed in getting here permanently, the transformation goes beyond self to change the world. Ecstasy makes this world into God's world. The certainty of one's divine status is probably the most important gift ecstasy brings, as evoked by Whitman in his poem, Song of Myself. I know that the hand of God is the elder hand of my own. I know that the Spirit of God is the eldest brother of my own. And that all the men ever born are also my brothers, and the women my sisters and my lovers. Amazing. I'm not going to explain it. That is the true love. These words came from a direct, undeniable fusion of self and love. The melting sensation that ushers in ecstasy isn't meant to be temporary. When you remain open to spirit, you become spirit, and then universal love is your natural state. It's true of all lovers that are moments of intense joy. Some sort of boundary melts, and the happiness of loving another person is exalted beyond itself. One crosses over into a place where the traces of personality diminish until they become so faint that the ego merges into love's flow, like that drop returned to the ocean. Despite the fact that only a small percentage of people have fallen in love on any given day, lovers have not taken extraordinary journeys, not compared with those mystic travelers often called ecstatics. The intense joy of romance is a reachable experience, a step on the same path the mystics travel much farther along. Now it is time for us to see what the final destination actually is. And then he goes into a variety of ecstasies, but I'm going to use the bathroom. right. Whew. Varieties of ecstasy. Rather than use a vague term like mystical, we will explore the different experiences that have been labeled ecstatic throughout his history. Ecstasy can first be considered as a physical experience. This is the level our culture has fixated upon, to the extent that a drug has been given the name ecstasy with the promise, presumably, that it will deliver the experience. In the very crudest sense, pushing sensual pleasure to its limits is supposed to bring one to the point of ecstasy. Books on erotic techniques pass themselves off as handbooks to the ecstatic. But in all these cases, the real nature of ecstasy has been missed because no lasting transformation has taken place. A drug may alter the brain's biochemical status, excuse me, mimicking the spontaneous sensations that appear in ecstatic states. But the experience is devoid of meaning. Altered brain waves do not equate with the poetic insight of this exalted passage from the Song of Solomon. My heart was split, and a flower appeared, and grace sprang up, and it bore fruit for my God. She did say that. These lines are supposedly sensual. The images are undeniably sexual. Yet the poet is not mistaking his ecstasy for mere pleasure, however deep and intoxicating that may be. He declares, and in my drunkenness was insight, intimacy with your spirit. Without this insight, ecstasy might be justifiable, be equated with sensory intensity such as drugs can deliver. Don't need any drugs. Here, my intent certainly isn't to strip the pleasure away. Lovers who can freely surrender in sexual intimacy are able to go far beyond the experience of partners who feel inhibited with each other. Yeah, for me, that's kind of difficult. Um, I haven't had a partner, but I assume it's going to be a little hard for me to release the tension in my body with my partner. Um, it's not, I've never done it before, so I don't know how the situation's going to go. Pleasure is by no means a given in a society that has not yet really confronted the guilt and the shame that cloud sexual desire. Yet the boundaries that melt in the experience of ecstasy are of a different kind. As the most famous lines from the Song of Solomon declare, and you have made all things new, you have showed me all things shiny, and you have granted me perfect ease. I have become like paradise. I like shiny things. Whew. For all things to become new and shining requires much more than sensuality. If anything, intense sexual contact leads to release and exhaustion. The little death, le petit mort, of orgasm is a form of oblivion, not a raising of consciousness. We can't afford to be absolute here. Sexual energy is neutral. We mold it according to our intentions. For some lovers, it's possible to use orgasm as a means to reach elevated states of consciousness. That's what Tantra is. Yet, even in these cases, the visions, sensations, and emotions being evoked are not necessarily ecstasy. They are whatever the lovers had made them into. To make things shiny and new has everything to do with perception. This brings us to the second broad definition of ecstasy, which is mythic and archetypal. In ordinary perception, we see ourselves in unmythic terms, overshadowed as we are by so much mundane activity. I gotta sit up straight. My back hurts. Ulysses didn't have to commute through tangled traffic every morning. Athena's mind wasn't filled with worries over meeting the mortgage this month. But as Carl Jung long ago pointed, beneath the turmoil of daily activity, our unconscious motivations dwell in the mythic world. Jealous. Inside each of us are primal gods and goddesses. We know this without knowing it. Insofar as we obey our mythic drives without bringing them into conscious awareness, striving to succeed in the corporate takeover bid partakes of the heroic quest as much as the Argonauts seeking the golden fleece. Climbing Everest is driven by the same ambition to reach the abode of the gods as Icarus flying towards the sun. In mythic terms, ecstasy is a sacred journey into the unconscious as underworld, heroically portrayed in countless ways, from Persephone's abduction by Pluto to Orpheus seeking his bride among the shades of Hades. If the physical definition of ecstasy falls short because it lacks meaning, the mythic definition flirts with being too intellectual. Through the arduous process of bringing the unconscious to light, a person may be able to reach his mythic roots. But whether this will bring ecstasy is questionable. In the language of archetypes, ecstasy has been traced back to the Greek god that son of a bitch. Anyways, Dionysus, whose devotees engaged in ritual orgies using wine and sexuality to attain altered states. At the sacred site of Delphi, a secret cult of women called Maenads. I've never heard of that. Derived from Greek word for madness, worked themselves into ecstatic frenzies in their rites, which included skinning animals alive with their bare hands and devouring them. Ugh. We will still look askance at Dionysic revels, supposing that their participation reached while excessive drunkenness and promiscuity. To mythic thinkers, though, nothing could be further from the truth. The worship of Dionysus, tells us, was not about excess and violence, but about the attainment of divine ecstasy. The darkness of this journey is what made the frenzies necessary. They were not an end in themselves. In any event, orgies are now really grand metaphors for smashing the shell of waking consciousness to arouse the sleeping divinity within. Jesus, what's going on? Perhaps this is true. Many ancient traditions use extreme states to push through it to sacred visions. Native shaman who pierce their bodies or seclude themselves in the harsh wilderness are attempting to constant private forces within. Their rites and their orgies of Dionysus are not that far removed from lovemaking by lovers who hope to push sex into intensity of ecstasy. The transports of priests and devotees through devotional rituals can be very meaningful to them. The unconscious is a rich landscape. Archetypes tell us much about our primal selves. Yet the message of the myth often seems prefabricated. I think lacking the immediacy of true ecstasy. It is rare to meet a mythic thinker who has recaptured the divine state of the ancient ones he or she has thought about. My brain hurt. I'm gonna pause, I'm just gonna like think about that. You know what I mean? This is a really cool book. He really simplifies everything um, that is being taught, but it's easier to read and also very no secret hidden meanings, which is what this book has many of. Oh, look, I have a little emoji sticker. Hmm. I highlighted this because I thought it was really romantic. He found that the strongest turn-ons were silent, peaceful surroundings, tender expressions, deep looks of desire, sparkling eyes, tentative touches, and modesty. There were moments when he forgot about sex, lost in sheer freedom and openness of his own being, and these were the most sexual moments of all. Beautiful. What is what am I thinking? I need to eat this Pop Tart. I want to hear the stories of your life, how you were spiritually slapped, right? Really curious. That's something I want to hear in my ear at night under the covers with a flashlight in a pillow fort in a closet, very small closet. Mhm. What have you been through? What have you experienced as Shiva? And what have you had to hide from other people? Because people are always hiding. Um, you know, their thoughts, their realizations. I want to know what you see when you see me. Um, what is it that you see in my eyes? Um, a girl still likes romance. You know what I mean? Like letters, poetry, serenades, drunken worship. What else? Goofy laughs, um, where you look like a fool. What else? The days looked in your eyes because you're high as hell. That'd be cool. Because even if people ascend, and the realization of the truth, it's kind of boring, right? It's not boring, but it's like, I don't know what to think. In the end, I would like a hand to hold, even if the realization that I don't need anyone because we are everything. I would still like that path. And maybe there's a bug. I would choose to forget things, to relive things with my partner. Um, Also, because, I really want to go to Disney World, like really badly. Um, Partially my fault. I haven't written you any poetry, for you. Um, the poetry is not going to be written, it's going to be sung. But as I said, no one's going to see that. No one's going to hear that. Um, oh, get out of there. Me being young, I want to force things to happen, but that doesn't work. Also, um, on an old romantic view, shouldn't the man, come and seduce? I don't know. Not that I care about stereotypes and any of that, but I would not say no. I would not say no. Um, the instant I know who you are, that's it. No doubt will ever come. What's that song? Let me look it up. I was made to love. And also the Kiss one, I also like. I was made for loving you. I was made for loving you, baby. I would dress up for that. Beautiful. Looking at someone from the outside, let me get some water first because this is gonna hurt my brain. Hey. Looking at this as someone on the outside of the relationship, I imagine we look really freaking silly because how long did it take to realize who we were? And I still don't comprehend what it means. You know, I'm always going to guess. I'm always going to assume. Well, I'm not going to assume, but I'm always going to be questioning everything. What does it mean? Is that a meme? What does it mean, jelly bean? What does it mean? Literally, what does it mean? Um, And for someone who's going to be at Disneyland very soon, is it even open? It probably is. Um, I'm not going to hide who I am in any way because I'm really silly and I'm really giddy in any situation and really excitable. Um, like I just do my thing. So I'm going to be there going nuts. Nuts. Who knows? Just the background character, right? But I exist. And that's the cool thing about it is no one notices you unless they want to. I can go into the shadows, just be there. Like witnessing everything, not partaking in anything, just chill. And then when the time comes, spit fire to someone who needs to hear the truth. Even to myself, you know. Well, actually, no, that it doesn't work that way, does it? Someone has to spit fire to me, right? Like someone has to know what I need to hear, right? The reflection of Micharu. I don't know where I'm getting. I'm just talking. Whatever. Even though yesterday I was heartbroken at the concept of being wrong and heartbroken, I don't really feel that way today. So it doesn't really scare me. To open myself over and over and over again. The biggest fear is that the question will not be popped right here, right now. You know what I mean? Because I don't need fancy things. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need a fancy ring. I don't need any of that. I don't need a whole setup, a gimmick, a surprise. I just need the question. You know, no one has ever asked me, never been married, never said yes. So new experience for me. Who will it who will appear, who will manifest at this time and place for me? I don't know. As I said in the book, you can look at that, but I don't. I try not to. Subconsciously, maybe sometimes, but that ain't my business. My business is traveling, experience new things, the journey, meeting beautiful people, learning about your family history and where we relate or where we tie into each other. Um, Very curious as to why Sweden has never been on my priority in any sense. Um, what does it mean? But different breed of people over there. I can't imagine being. Actually, I can imagine. I thought about it. I'm pretty sure I'd be pretty well accepted. Um, Not because I'm going to be able to speak the language right off the bat, um, because I don't. It's kind of confusing for me. But hey, whatever. I love learning, so and it's easier to learn when you have a partner who isn't judgmental. I mean, you can make fun of me with my little accent and my stuttering, but that's fine. I won't be mean about it. Um, yeah, I assume that over there people see the value of someone who is like me or is me. Um, which is going to be interesting. I don't know how that's going to be like for me. Um, I'm interested in knowing what conversations and what situations I will be put into. I imagine it's quite nerve wracking for someone to ask for someone's hand in marriage for life eternally or for infinity. Um, no matter who you are, I think that's just. I just imagine Shiva was like shitting himself, you know. So I think that's hilarious, actually. I don't know how that feels. Um, I'm looking at poetry as usual on Pinterest. How to fake the look of a built in library. Why would you fake the look of an actual library? Like, that's the whole point is to read and have books, right? I don't. I don't get that. Even in IKEA, they have real books. I looked at them. I wanted to take some. I wanted to steal some, but they're all in svenska. Is that how you say it? Swedish. So I was just like, whatever. Ooh. That's spicy. Devour my flower. Let's see what else we find. My brain needs a break. And what else? There's a lot of skeleton poetry going on. Um, and, which is cool. I like skeletons because we are skeletons. That's cute. Anyways, what do we need to say? What needs to get off our chest? I don't know. I don't know what to say because I usually just say it anyways. I bought a ring for you. Hopefully it fits. It's pretty badass. Right? It has my stone on it. So that's cool. Several gifts to give. I think, a woman should be equal to a man. So if the man is spending money on a ring, he should have the same thing, right? Because that's only fair for me, you know. That's a mystery. But yeah, I don't really like that whole concept. Spending thousands of dollars on something big and shiny. It's kind of disrespectful for anyone who can't afford it, you know. And people who brag, like my husband got me this huge ring. It's the biggest diamond. It was like $30,000. Isn't it beautiful? And then, your friend is broke and they're like, wow, thanks. Rude, ignorant. The cheapest things can be made into the most valuable things, right? It's not important how much you spend. It's just important the intention and the romantic aspect, the meaningful aspect behind it, the poetry behind it, the intention. I already said that. Like, hey, I want you to be my life partner, and then let's go eat some food because I'm hungry. Right? um, there's nothing. Everyone's love story is different, and I want to live my love story. I do. Um, it's like time doesn't. It doesn't exist, but time is standing still until the catalyst comes in. Right? Is that the right word? I think. I don't know. That could be wrong, but you know, but the catalyst has to come in order for things to how progress, I guess. Right? Is that the right thing? Who is the catalyst? Right? I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Let's see what he says. Yeah. What does it mean to no longer exist? I don't exist. It's always a paradox, man. That's why I need someone, a teacher. It's like crazy. Um, Giving up everything and not existing. Paradox. Nonsensical. Insanity. Anyways, back to my love story. What else? I love books. Cheap books. Some books that I like are really fucking expensive. One of them is like $500, and I was like, holy shit! Like, why? Why is it so expensive? That's crazy. The cheap books are great. I love them. Books people throw away make me so happy. Um, I don't know what else to talk about. I can talk about myself, but honestly, it's just not boring. I can go on and on and on and on. It would be nice to see what you'd like to do, you know, what insane hobbies you have, what creative skills you have. I'm sure you're very talented. Um, if you use emojis, because I use emojis. Sometimes I can't understand people unless they use emojis because I read into what they're saying and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So emojis help me understand intention. Um, emoji love language. Am I crazy? Um, I don't know what else. The the fact is that you know who I am, but you're really good at hiding. Is really interesting. You don't exist on anything traceable, which makes me intrigued because everyone has a signature online. You know what I mean? Um, they have websites that they don't visit anymore, and it's still there. They have social media. Um, you know, it's traceable. You know, it's just reverse detective work. But I don't know. I don't know about you, so I don't know what aliases, what names you're using, and um, what I do know though is as much as someone tries to hide themselves, other people give information away, right? So it's just a matter of time before I figure things out. Um, but as I mentioned before in several videos, it really doesn't matter um, how do I phrase this? True love is not about appearance in any way. Yes, obviously, physical attraction is good, but in the end, in my point of view, I would rather have someone who's considered ugly, which I said I don't consider anyone ugly, who is a great father, you know, than someone who is very beautiful and shallow and empty. You know, um, so it's not something to be worried about. because it doesn't really matter. For me, I want a kid no matter what. And kids have crazy genetic probability. So they're going to be cute and dangerous. Because me as a little kid, she's going to be a handful. It's going to be hilarious. Oh, yes. All right. So, yeah, this one's going to be interesting. All you have to do is slide into my DMs, just slide into my DMs. Not on Instagram, because I'm not even looking at that. Let's see what we can find out. Doing some investigation. What do I use? What do I get? I don't know. There's just so much that is just throwing me in the loop. Whatever. When I really have the energy to go nuts, I will. Maybe. Yeah, I'm just chilling today. My friend's coming over. We're just gonna chill and live our life. This wondrous, amazing, magical, fantastical, magnificent, magnificent majesty. You're welcome to visit me. I'll just leave it open-ended. You can read into that. Meditate in my direction. Where's that song from? I don't know. So let's see. I am hungry and see if we can get something. I miss going to the beach. October 31st is a full moon, and as I mentioned, sacred holiday for witches, Samhain, and I will go to the beach and worship at night and possibly get naked because that's what I do. um, so yeah, I am probably going to go eat or go for a walk. Actually, I think I want to go outside. And hope is there. Hope is a pretty name. Hope. So I think, as usual, we'll see you soon. Why am I thinking of night everlasting? I don't know. But I'm out. I'm out of here. Bye.